وبالله ومن الله وإلى الله وعلى الله وفي الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on the noblest of the prophets Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companions, and all those who follow in righteousness to the day of reckoning. I take this opportunity to welcome you to another edition of Ramadan in 10 minutes on RAANOD TV. This time we are learning useful lessons from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But before we look at another lesson we can learn from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, let's just remind ourselves of what the Prophet said about the month of Ramadan. That it's very blissful, very auspicious, and that if we knew what the month contained, would have wished that the entire year would be Ramadan for us. And that is just by way of reminder. Today, by way of the lesson we can learn from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I want us to look at his mercy and compassion. According to his wife Aisha radiallahu anha, when she was asked about the character of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said he is the Quran, because his life was in tandem with the Quran. Everything about him was just an example of the Quran. And the Quran talks about mercy. The Quran talks about compassion. And that was what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam exhibited. To the extent that he told you and I, by way of advice, that the merciful will be shown mercy by the most merciful. What it means is that if you are merciful, if you forgive people their wrongs, if you show compassion to people when they do not necessarily deserve it from you, but you want to make peace and move on, says the merciful will be shown mercy by the most merciful. It says, be merciful to those on earth, and the one who is in heaven will show mercy upon you, or will have mercy upon you. Show mercy to those on earth, and the one who is in heaven will have mercy on you. That is a character that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught his companions. And it was not just merely about showing mercy to one another. If you read the hadith narrated by Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu, he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I sometimes stand in prayer, then hear a child crying. So I make my prayer brief due to the wanting of the mother's attention that the child desires. I make my prayer brief, not wanting to cause hardship for his mother. I sometimes stand in prayer, and when I hear the cry of a child, I do not want to create hardship, because the mother is in the prayer and her attention must be on the prayer. But because the child is crying, she will be absent-minded, whether she should continue with the prayer or whether she should pause and go and attend to the child. And I want to avoid that situation as much as possible to the mother. So I make my prayer brief. That is the extent to which the Prophet ﷺ was merciful and was compassionate to everyone. In yet another hadith, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ advised us, when you stand up for prayer and you are leading the people, be brief. That is what the Prophet said. When you lead the people in prayer, be brief, because there are weak ones amongst you. There are sick ones amongst you. And then there are the aged or the elderly. And when one of you is praying alone, then he should elongate it as much as he pleases. This is just exactly like what Surah Muzammil says, that there are some people who are sick, who are wayfarers, they are travelers, they are hostless. He has just come to pray so that he can just, after the termination of the prayer, he can just jump onto the next bus or to go and seek the good pleasure of Allah through undertaking lawful endeavors. And this is where the Imam decides to elongate the prayer. What the Prophet said was not in any way to say, do not elongate the prayer. But the Prophet was saying, you and I should always be mindful of the people we lead. Because there could be weak ones amongst us. They cannot stand for a very long time, even if they are sitting to perform the prayer. They are having one form of difficulty or the other. There could be the sick ones amongst us, like someone who has urinary incontinence. The person will have to pee every now and then, and the Imam is elongating or prolonging the prayer. So instead of focusing on the prayer, the person's attention is on when will the Imam finish with the prayer so that I can go and attend to this need or that need. Then there are the elderly ones amongst us, and they should be a matter of concern to us, just as the Prophet himself considered the crying of a child whilst he was leading the prayer as hardship for the mother. So must you and I also consider the needs of the people we lead in our prayers. To the extent that the Prophet ﷺ, in teaching us to be merciful and compassionate, said we should sharpen our knife, our blades, for the sacrificial animal, so that we do not cause unnecessary harm, unnecessary pain to the animals we slaughter. My fellow believers, have we learned any lessons from the way of life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by way of showing mercy to one another? He said, the one who shows mercy to the other will be shown mercy by the most merciful. And then be merciful to those on earth, and the one in heaven will have mercy on you. May Allah bless us and let us imbibe this quality in us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.